So, I mentioned in my Has Been Hotel brief review that I am a fan of Helluva, and especially with how good the last two episodes of Season 2 have been, and getting someone who follows me on Instagram asking me if I would ever do a review over the series, which, by the way, if you want to keep up with updates on videos, you can follow me here. But with that plug out of the way, let me explain how this review is going to work. I'm going to give like a mini brief review over each of the 8 episodes and ranking them through a scale of 1 to 10. I am not counting the pilot episode, so don't be in the comments saying you forgot the pilot. I will ignore your comment and move on with my life. Now that I've explained how these are going to work, let's get into it. I think this is a great start to the show. It has a great sense of humor, and it also had a couple more, I don't want to say horror, but more like unsettling tension with scenes. Could also have a good balance of different tones despite it being more comedic. This episode was also great at setting up plot points for future events to pay off later on down the lines. This also did a great job at making you really like the cast of characters and get a feel for their personality. Like, Blitz is a goofy boss who really doesn't give two shits as long as you get a job done. Moxie is very uptight and still has a little bit morality despite being in hell. Millie is a sweet southern stereotype who loves her husband a bit too much. Luna is just every angsty teen stereotype, and Stolas is a bit of a hornball who clearly likes Blitz. All in all, the humor is great. I really love the cast. I feel confident in giving this a 7 out of 10. Great start to the show and season. Jesus, this one up the first episode already in my opinion. Because this episode, in my opinion, was funnier than the first. It had so many good jokes. It showed the show is able to balance different tones between the comedic bits, because you also get the really sad but heartfelt moments as well. This episode also cemented the fact that Stolas is my favorite character, because the only taste we got of him in episode 1 was horny and massive amounts of it, to then this episode seeing that Stolas is a really great dad, and the amazing song, and his singing voice sounding smoother than silk. I don't know, I just think that this episode was a step up from the first in every way possible. In a good way. I would give it a 9 out of 10. You know, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really don't like Spring Broken. I don't know what it is, but this episode really didn't click with me. Like, apparently a lot of the fandom did and really like this episode. And I think it's a fine episode. I think it's just that. It's just fine. I think it's mostly Blitz in this episode. With Barasaka's dynamic with Blitz is really enjoyable, with how bitter they are towards each other. The Blitz, in my opinion, was just a bit overly obnoxious. Like, it sounds like a weird critique, but Blitz in this episode just feels like he is trying too hard to get a laugh out of you every second he gets, compared to how effortlessly funny he was in the last two. And then Verasaka's song Bone Town. I don't really like it. I mean, like, it's not the worst song out of Helluva, but all the song feels like is just sexy background music, which I think is like the best way to describe this song. I don't know, this is not what I would consider a bad episode, but also not great. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. I know this take is gonna piss so many people off, but fuck it. Cherub is a really funny episode and is overhated. I like that the episode feels like a Looney Tunes episode if it was R-rated. It has easily some of the best comedic bits of the season. I love how the whole IMP crew just fucks with the Cherubs. I find it hilarious. And the ending where the Cherubs get expelled by the greatest character, Deary. And then to find out that the guy they were trying so hard to protect went to hell anyway and met up with his former business partner. Who was the one who put a hit on him? That is comedy. I really like this episode. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Fuck whoever disagrees. Well, the Harvest Moon episode is a good episode. We get the introduction to Millie's family and the introduction to our first reoccurring antagonist, Stryker, who I think is set up as a great threat. Plus, we get some cool world building with the introduction of the Wrath Ring, which gives off this Western vibe, which really makes a lot of sense with why Millie is the way she is. And we also get some hints with Stolas and Blitz's relationship, where we see that there are some actual genuine feelings growing between them. They're just a bit more subtle in this episode compared to later ones. Overall, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. This is the best episode of the season. I think anyone in the fandom will agree with me on this sentiment. The screenplay for this episode is definitely one of the best of the season. We found out more about Blitz's inner self-hatred for himself and why he can't be emotionally vulnerable with anyone. We get to see other members of the IMP crew interact with each other, so we get some different dynamics, because typically it's Blitz and Luna and Moxie and Millie, so it was nice that we got it switched up. We get the setup of a new antagonist called the Dorks, which honestly, from what we see, that name is very fitting. Then that amazing fight scene and that setup at the end, which showed that the Dorks will be a future threat later, especially from what we see in season 2. Yeah, I can confidently say this is the first 10 out of 10 I'm willing to give Helluva Boss. Well, we got back-to-back bangers. Ozzy's is a great episode, because remember how I said in the previous episode that we get a bit of a taste of Blitz's self-hatred that prevents him from being emotionally vulnerable? Yeah, this episode is pretty much just that times 10, because my man gets absolutely thrown in the ringer. Between Blitz not acknowledging Stolas on their whole quote-unquote date, because Blitz was too focused at admiring what Moxie and Millie have, because he doesn't think he will ever get that or deserve it. Then we get the absolute banger of a song, House of Osmodeus, that pretty much served as a way to mock Stolas and Blitz, trying to ever be a real relationship. And Stolas' reaction when he had the chance to defend Blitz, he cowards out and causes their relationship to strain even more than it probably was. And that sad scene of Blitz dropping Stolas off and going home and scrolling through photos and bawling his eyes out. God, this is a really good episode. Solid 9 out of 10. So, I really don't have too much of an opinion on this episode, because Fibsy even stated that this was more of a visual celebration for a successful first season, and it definitely delivered on that. And then the song that was really hit or miss with the fandom, Cotton Candy, and I think the song is an absolute banger. And we also got some really nice bonding moments between Luna and Blitz, which was really nice seeing, because she does care for him, she just doesn't really know how to express that to him. I don't know, like I said, this episode really wasn't meant to be anything more than just a visual treat for celebrating season 1, so I'd give it a 7 out of 10. So overall, this season was really strong, and averaging out my ratings of this season, it's 7.8, but I'm gonna round up to 8 because I don't believe in decimals. So season 1 lands at an 8 out of 10. I hope y'all enjoyed, and don't hate on me too much for my takes on certain episodes, but I hope you've enjoyed. Take care and peace.